Is there such a thing as too much Qigong? And can you do Qigong all the time? That is going to be the topic of this episode of Qi Life. So today I'm coming to you from the seats by the changing rooms next to a sports field. And that's going to give us a good analogy for some of the things that we're going to talk about in this vlog. Because I'm going to talk about two things that might seem a little bit contradictory. So one of those is there such a thing as doing too much Qigong? And I'm going to say that yes, there is. And the other is it possible to do Qigong all the time? And is that a good thing? I'm going to say yes, it is, and it can be a good thing. So these two things might seem a bit contradictory, but all will be explained. I'm sure it will make sense by the time we get to the end of the vlog. So to begin with, the first statement, is there such a thing as doing too much Qigong? One of the sayings that I'm quite fond of lately, and you've probably heard me say it here on this vlog channel a few times, is that energy work is real work. I think it's something that people forget quite often. I think people sometimes have a tendency to think of working with our energy as not being real in some way. And so if it's not real, well, you can't do too much of it, but it is real. And because of that, it is possible to do too much. Now, I'll explain that across several different reasons why or how it's possible to do too much Qigong. Part of it simply relates to fatigue. Qi, energy, gong, work or skill. Work. You're putting in work when you're working with energy. There's effort involved. And you can get fatigued doing that. And there's different parts of that. So when we're doing Qigong, often we're using our mind. We're concentrating on things in our body, sometimes very subtle aspects of our awareness. And if we're working quite hard at that, we can get tired and we need to have a break. Continuing to do more can be counterproductive. Similarly, within Qigong practices, depending on the practice, sometimes we're using physical postures or physical movements, which again, most of those are gentle. Some are quite strenuous, in and of themselves. Most of those are gentle, but even with something that's gentle, you can do too much of it. A gentle movement, you can fatigue the connective tissue and end up injuring yourself if you do too much. Often that will be quite a lot before it's too much, but it's still too much. Similarly, we're working with the breath in Qigong practices. Often, again, it depends on the practice, how much we're focusing on the breath, but most Qigong practices have at least some focus on the breath and some focus a lot on the breath. Is it possible to breathe too much? Yeah, it is. It's possible to overbreathe and to hyperventilate, and for that to cause detrimental effects, to breathe too deeply, too heavily. You can overdo it, right? Now, that's not to say there's never a place for hyperventilation. There are some practices that specifically use hyperventilation within Qigong breathing exercises that can be really useful, but you don't want to do too much of that. There's a certain amount. It's like, that's what the system can handle, can benefit from. Then you have a break. I'm sure many of you are aware there's lots of different hyperventilation practices that have become popular amongst other types of breath work as well, not necessarily with a Qigong focus, but breath work in general has become quite popular lately, and there's a role and a place for those. But can you overdo it? Yeah, absolutely you can. Then there is the working with the energy itself. Can you work too strongly or for too long, do too much working with that energy, and to a point where it becomes detrimental for you? Yeah, you can. Sometimes it can be a matter of doing too strenuously too much all at once, and what that might do is it might open up flows of energy too quickly, more than you're able to handle, and that doesn't actually end up having a positive effect, or maybe release blockages too strongly too quickly, and that it might be good that you release the blockage, but if you do it too quickly, it can then have some detrimental effect that can be too much as well. So, to our analogy, here I am at the sports field. In many ways, you can think of the different parts of Qigong, that energy work, that effort, as being similar to other types of exercise, where within our focused Qigong practice, we specifically activate things often or we focus on things to a higher level than we normally would, and we get things more active. So, for example, if you go for a run, you're working your muscles more strongly than you normally would. You're breathing more heavily, more deeply than you normally would. Your heart, your circulatory system, you get it working stronger than you normally would. And that's a good thing within reason. You can overdo it. You can push yourself so you injure yourself. You don't want to do that. You can also keep running for too long so you excessively fatigue yourself and don't get the benefits that you might want as well. And so there's a balance to be found in recognizing, hey, when I do my focused specific Qigong practice, I'm working. This is good. I'm making things more active. I'm becoming more aware than I normally would be. And this is good for a period of time. But then after that, I also need to relax. I need to rest. And it's not good, again, compared to, going for a run. Yeah, running's good. That's good for building fitness as long as you don't, overdo it. Um, but that doesn't mean you want to keep running all day, right? You actually want to take some time not running to rest, recover, and then prepare yourself so that when you run again, you're able to make more progress. It's able to do more good for you. And so that is similar to our Qigong practice. We do these specific focus practices, and depending on, again, good analogy, how fit you are will depend how much you can do within one practice and how strenuous you can be, how strongly you can activate the energy. And this develops and builds over time. It might be that it's best for you to start with quite short and gentle Qigong practices, but as you continue, it can be beneficial to do longer and more challenging practices. It develops, again, very similar to other types of exercise, that you get stronger, fitter in an energy sense, more endurance, more strength in an energy sense as well, and you develop this over time. So yeah, there is such a thing as doing too much, and it's interesting as a little story. Um, I used to be, well, the registrar. I had other positions as well, but the registrar of the New Zealand Qigong and Traditional Chinese Medicine Association, and yeah, I was involved with lots of stuff as part of that and reviewing standards and all this sort of thing. But part of that, of course, was I was reviewing people's applications to join the association whenever there was a new member who wanted to join. And when we've simplified our application process a little bit now, but back then when I was the registrar, we had we would ask people quite a few questions in the application documents to get a feel for who they are and what they were like and their experience with Qigong and so on. And one of the questions we asked people was, describe your daily Qigong practice routine. What do you do each day? And it was really interesting, some of the answers, because I'd get some people and say, oh, and I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and like listing all of these different sets of practices and how long they do them for, and they're doing hours and hours and hours of Qigong practice. Like, oh, crikey. I'm not sure that's healthy. I think they were maybe trying to impress me, or the association as a whole, like me just being the person processing the application, with like how much Qigong they're doing. It's like, yeah, that's not the intent of that question, to show off with how much Qigong you're doing, because you can do too much. Doing more is not always better. Doing the amount that's right for you is the best thing. And so I guess there's another aspect to this, possibly doing too much Qigong, and that is, what really is the purpose of doing your Qigong practice? You can have lots of purposes. You can have a purpose of improving your health. You can have a purpose of developing more awareness of your energy, more skill with your energy, like specifically working on that. You can have a purpose of finding more peace and tranquility in your life. You can have a purpose of just wanting to learn and understand things better. You can have all these different purposes. That's great. But it's important that amongst all of these purposes that we recognize something bigger in terms of like, well, what's the overall purpose of our life? And to have Qigong hold the right place within that. So that ideally, our Qigong practice supports us in all the rest of our life, in our health, in our energy levels, in our understanding of ourselves, of our interaction with others. Now, in order to do that, for different people, that will mean doing different amounts of Qigong practice, because it's according to what their priorities are and, and what they're engaged with. But it's important that you don't let just that practice take the place of everything else that's important in your life as well. The point is to give you a richer, fuller life, not just to just focus on, specific practices and things like that. All right, so having said that, it is possible to do too much. And why? What's the other part of that? Is it possible to do Qigong all the time? Now, I've just said that most of the time when we do Qigong, we're activating our energy or our awareness to a higher level than we normally would. And inherently within that, that means we need to take a rest at some point as well. So how could we then practice Qigong all the time? This really comes down to what is your definition of practicing Qigong and how able are you able to do this? And this changes over time as well. So certainly there's a place for having focused Qigong practice where that's all you're focusing on. You're specifically doing practice, developing awareness, working with your breath, working with movement, posture, and so on. But as we develop skill and awareness through doing this, it then becomes not just possible, but likely that awareness actually starts to spill over into other areas of our lives, and that skill with energy also starts to spill over into other areas of our lives as well. And so in terms of practicing Qigong all the time, it doesn't mean that we're always having a specific focus on doing specific practices all the time, but we find that we start to have an awareness of energy. We start to have an awareness of principles that affect our energy in everything that we do. And so that means to a certain extent, we are doing Qigong all the time. We are using our skill with energy all the time. We are, to some extent, developing our skill with energy all the time by having that awareness. That's not the same as doing specific focused practice where we're like working harder with our energy all the time. That should be limited to some extent, so we have time to rest as well. But we'll then naturally go through peaks and ebbs of working with our energy during a day. There'll be time where we're like, yeah, we're doing some specific practice, and then we relax, but we're still aware. We're still, in a sense, doing Qigong, and then we might do some more practice later on, and then we come down from that. And so there will be these ebbs and flows. But in a sense, you could say, yeah, we're actually doing Qigong all the time. And when you get to that stage where that becomes something that is just part of your natural awareness, often you'll find that you actually then start to do less of the focused practice because you're actually working with your energy all the time. Now, having said that, that generally doesn't mean, because some people can go too far in that direction and then go like, all I do is I'm just aware all the time. So there's still a role for focused practice, right? Just like when you're walking around, you're doing things all day, your heart is beating all the time, your circulatory system is working all the time. That doesn't mean that there's not a role for making it work a bit harder, focusing on, going for a run, riding a bike, going for a swim, whatever it is that you might do, doing some vigorous Qigong exercises that get that heart beating more strongly for a period of time, and then maintaining the awareness and the healthy function of heart the rest of the time. All right, so two maybe somewhat seemingly conflicting ideas, but hopefully with perspective you can see how both of these things are true. That you can do too much Qigong practice. It's important to put it into perspective. It's important to have it fulfill the healthiest role within your life, not letting it take over from other things that are also important. It's also important to recognize the effort and exertion that goes into Qigong practice, and therefore the need to, yes, focus, because it's mental effort. So sometimes we need to relax that mental effort, physical effort, sometimes we need to relax that, and so on. But to, yes, work with that and then give us a chance to rest as well. And we'll find that by having those focus practice and also the rest, we get better results. And then also at the same time, as we develop, as we get more experience, more skill, in a sense, we can actually do Qigong all the time. All right. I hope you've enjoyed this, maybe found it interesting, maybe given you some things to think about, to apply within the way you practice Qigong, or how you see your different activities in life. If you have, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all those good things. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one soon.